Thank you, Stephanie. Okay. It is now 6 p.m. and I hereby call this special meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order. If we could please have a moment of silence in remembrance of the terrorist attacks 23 years ago today. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, Commissioner Toledo.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could have roll call, please.
Absolutely. District 1, Vincent Ringhayden.
Present.
District 2, Richard Way.
Present.
District 3, Robert Scagliotti.
Present.
District 4, Robert Gibson.
Present.
District 5, Celeste Toledo Bocanegra.
Present.
All commissioners are present and we have a quorum.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda, which consists of the acknowledgement of certificate of posting?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing. PLN 200051 lease subdivision project.
Hi, good evening, Chair, fellow commissioners, and members of the public. Thank you so much for coming out tonight and learning a little bit more about the proposal for the lease subdivision project, County File Number PLN 200051. So a little bit about the project details. As some of you are familiar, this did come before both the Planning Commission and the board back in 2022, in the beginning of 2023. And so there are a few slight changes to the proposal in front of you, and we'll be going through that, and we'll be going through the revised environmental impact report. So it's still located in the same spot. We didn't move locations. It's still at 291 Old Ranch Road. It's east of the city of Hollister, and the regional access is through Airline Highway, or also known as Highway 25. And it's accessed by Fairview Corners. Some of the surrounding development that many of the public are familiar with includes Fairview Corners to the south, consisting of 189 lots. They range from about 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. Roberts Ranch to the west, it includes 192 single-family residents and 49 multifamily residents. West of Fairview to the northwest, consisting of 507 single-family residents, 20 duets, and 100 multifamily units. And then Santana Ranch to the north, it's outside of the purview of the map shown on the screen, but it's just under 1,100 units, including apartments and single-family residences. And then Galvin Community College to the south under Fairview Corners is also under construction now. This is the revised site plan for the Lansley project. You'll notice, and I'll describe it a little bit further, there is some additional active open space in this proposal. There is also a change, Street B to the north. The circulation has been modified there as well. So what is the project? What are we asking you to do? We're going to remove the existing residence, the barn, the septic system, and we're going to build 141 residential lots. 121 of those are 1- and 2-story, and 20 will be single-family duet units. And then there will be 17.5% 30 ADUs that will be proposed to meet the affordable housing obligation. There's going to be now 2.13 acres of public neighborhood parks, 0.5 acres of open space, roadways, sidewalks, and other improvements that I will get into here shortly. Utilities, I will be Sunny Slope County Water District for water, wastewater. Sunny Slope County Water District is contract with the city to convey and treat the water wastewater system. There will be a manhole at Fairview and Old Ranch intersection, and then the wastewater will be treated at the Hollister Water Reclamation Facility. The stormwater retention on site will provide for the 95th percentile of on-site detention basin below the Pros Park and the discharge into off-site drainage. There will also be future connections from future off-site pipe for recycled water. So just a few maps here to show the layout of the utilities. And the blue dotted line is the domestic water main line. The blue solid line is the existing potable water main, and then the red dotted line will be the irrigation water main being proposed. This is the wastewater infrastructure, and the brown line is going to be the gravity main, and the red dotted line that you see is the wastewater force main. This will be the on-site stormwater infrastructure outlined in purple, and then you can also see the Fairview Corners stormwater main that crosses through the open space parcel. So a little bit about the land use here. Currently, it's designated residential mixed. The zoning still is rural. So part of the proposed project is to do a zone change that would bring the zoning from rural to residential mixed to be compliant with the general plan. And it also includes a planned unit development combining district. And I will get a little bit into further detail shortly. So this is just a close-up of our general plan, and everything in orange is the designation residential multiple, which allows for higher density residential, single family up to 20 dwelling units per acre. This development is consistent with the general plan, and the combining district of planning and development will allow areas for multiple family dwellings and urban density. And I'll get a little bit into what is a planned unit development, what is the purpose of that. So it's basically an alternative to provide other types of residential mixed-use development to meet different demands of housing. It creates better opportunities for housing. It provides an alternative procedure to relay the type, design, and layout of the residential mixed-use development. And so this particular project is going to include in their planned unit development open space, the clustering of homes, connectivity to trails, paths, and sidewalks, other housing types and mixed use, architecture, affordable housing, and additional park improvements, which I'll get into. Here is, as part of the packet, the planned unit development proposal. All the lots that could accommodate an ADU are the black circle, and then a close-up of just what the development standards are. So it can change the base zoning of residential mix. So here's a little bit of a close-up. So it's just covering, you know, with the planning and development, what is going to be the front setback, the back setback, the density, amount of coverage, and so this is what's being proposed. In addition, when an applicant wants to do a planned unit development, they're required to provide a recreational amenity for that planned unit development. It requires a ratio of 5 acres of parkland per 1,000 persons. So for this project, that is 2.12 acres. The proposed project, and this was a modification from the previous proposal on parcel C, E, and F, and it consists of 2.13 acres. In addition, above and beyond is a 0.5 acre open passive space on parcels A and B. This was done to align with the below project Fairview Corners and their open space plan, and so that the two projects would be blending well together. In addition, the applicant is also going to be building out the entirety of the 3 parcels and 2.13 acres. It'll include drought tolerant plants, irrigation, some turf, pathways, few benches, and play structure. The 2 smaller parcels, parcels E and F, are going to be more like tot lots. There's a rough estimate of the benefit to this, and this is a low estimate at $8 per square foot to about $750,000. And the applicant is requesting that by, and I'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation, about waiving the park and recreation building permit impact fees since they are building out the parks on site. Review and providing recommendation of affordable housing agreement plan. So our county requires 15% requirement for on-site affordable units. That for in there is different requirements depending on the number of units. You know, the specifics of the percentage of what would be moderate income, what would be low income. And so for this proposal, what's in front of you is meeting the requirements under subsection F. Alternative compliance mechanisms should be used only when they lead to the production of more affordable units and would otherwise be provided on site, while being consistent with the chapter's other goals. So a little bit about what is in front of you. What they proposed was 30 deed restricted low-income accessory dwelling units, deed restricted for the 55-year term. There is also a secondary proposal if the 30 deed restricted ADUs wasn't the recommendation the Planning Commission would like to go with tonight. And this second recommendation would include 20 deed restricted low-income accessory dwelling units for rent for 55 years, and then 6 deed restricted for sale moderate income duets for a term of 30 years. The difference between the amount of affordability between the first proposal of 30 deed restricted ADUs and the second proposal of 20 ADUs and 6 for sale moderate income units. The first one provides for 17.5%, so that's 2.5% above what is required under our ordinance, and the latter is 16.2% affordability. Some of the variations in the specific development standard requirements that varies from what our inclusionary ordinance requires. One includes that, so for rent, it is 5% very low, 5% low, and 5% moderate breakout of the total number of units required. The first proposal provides for 100% low, so it's not including very low or moderate. The for sale units, as part of the second proposal, when there is a for sale, the requirement is 7.5% low income and 7.5% moderate income. And so this would be only moderate, and then the low income would be met through the ADUs. So there would be a higher percentage of low to moderate. In addition, the variation between the development standards and inclusionary ordinance and this proposal, we have in there number of bedrooms required for multifamily or single family housing. These would be considered single family because it require multifamily is when it's 3 or more units on a parcel. So these would still be considered single family. So that is a 3.2 rooms per unit. The ADUs being proposed are only 1 bedroom, and then the duets are 3 bedroom. So this is a variation, but I'll get into on the next slide a little bit why even though it varies from the inclusionary ordinance on these specific things, it's still meeting the inclusionary ordinance. And then in addition, there's minimum unit sizes. And so within the minimum unit size for single family, 1 bedrooms are 950 square feet with 1 bathroom, 2 bedroom unit. And then if it was a 3 bedroom, it was 1,380 square feet with 2 bathrooms. And so that is the square footage is different than what's being proposed. What's being proposed is about 500 square feet for the ADUs. Since our adoption of our inclusionary ordinance was, and the last adoption was done in 2022, we have currently gotten our 6th cycle RENA, and we are currently working, we have a draft of our housing element out. Within that draft, it talks about that ADUs being incorporated as part of meeting the inclusionary requirements. Our ordinance does not include ADUs as part of this, as part of that. ADUs per state law, a junior ADU cannot exceed 500 square feet. And so some of the square footages in there did not account for if ADUs or JADUs were to be used. And so this would be, again, a policy decision, recommendation that the Planning Commission would make to the board, and the board would ultimately adopt if this particular housing plan proposed meets the requirements. They have provided that they are providing more affordable units than is required in the inclusionary ordinance and meeting that requirement. In addition to that, there's state density bonus law, and under state density bonus law, they have met that because they, in both of their options, they are providing 10% low income units, and so by that, then they've met that, which allows for concessions as part of the application. And then here is just the square footages of what's being proposed. These are the duets. They're about 1,500 square feet. Here is the single family residence plans. They will range from about 1,800 to 3,000 square feet. So here is one, here's the other, and then this last one is the option that would allow to build an ADU. The ADU would have a separate entrance. It'd be a 1 bedroom and would include a kitchen, a bathroom, closet. So this is to be able to see. If the ADU was not proposed on a particular lot, then there are other options. They could be a 5th bedroom. So I just wanted to get a little bit into the circulation that's being proposed. So at a 10,000 foot, the main access to the site would be off of Fairview Road onto Old Ranch Road. There will be some shared driveways into some of the duets that is depicted on the south. As part of the project proposal, dedicated southbound left turn lane from Fairview Road to Old Ranch Road would be included. What would not be included would be acceleration lanes. Acceleration lanes are generally needed or required like a freeway or entrance, and they're not recommended for arterial roads. This is an arterial road because of bike lanes and other non-conforming. So it does not include acceleration, just a left turn lane going southbound. This is the pedestrian connectivity with adjacent projects. The secondary access to Fairview Corners through Old Ranch Road, and just the sidewalk is the purple outlined. And then coming off, there is also going to be a crossing beacon as part of the project as well. And here is a close-up of Fairview Corners development. And the connecting public street from the lands of Lee to the Fairview Corners. By doing this, it's actually providing secondary access for both projects. So Gavilan College would and Fairview Corners would also have this secondary access to use in case of an emergency. And this is just fire requirements on requiring fire sprinkler systems and secondary access requirements. And that is, they have met that as part of this project proposal. It's also going to use a third less of the water than traditional homes, smaller yards, and scoped with water saving features, and it will also be pre-plumbed for the pipe for future recycled irrigation. So as part of the EIR, there was project objectives included. Some of those included reducing residential development on farmlands, prime farmlands, statewide importance, providing a mix of residential housing types. This project included duets, single family, and ADUs, and then 17.5% de-restricted low-income housing that I described above. And so these are just additional provide secondary egress for Fairview Corners. It provides park facilities, stormwater infiltration. And so essentially the purpose of the EIR is to provide, is required under the California Environmental Quality Act, and it's essentially to provide information for decision makers to understand the impacts regarding the project, and also ways to mitigate those impacts and provide alternatives. So we are at the very end of our process for environmental review process, where the county makes a decision on the project, which I am here in front of you tonight. Again, this is an amended EIR. So the notice of preparation scoping was done back in 2022. There were certain elements of the EIR, and I'll get into those next, that were revised. And then when you include revisions to an EIR, you're required to recirculate the draft EIR. So that was done in May and went through June 24th. And then the final EIR was just recently released on August 30th. So I just want to talk a little bit about the previous EIR and the current EIR and what changed. So it's a little bit easier to understand. So one is affordable units. Before 21 units were provided to meet the 15%. This one includes 30 units. The site acreage stayed the same, but the CEQA study area, the site acreage for development stayed the same, but the study area was increased to incorporate the slope that's not a part of the development. Residential lot acreage was slightly changed, nothing significant, but just to note. The accessory dwelling units changed. Before 25 ADUs were going to be built, but not deed restricted. As part of the affordable housing, 30 ADUs are going to be built and deed restricted. In addition, when the circulation changed on Street B, it then provided a change to the amount of acreage for public parks. And so it went from 1.9 acres to 2.13 acres. The open space of 0.5 acres remained the same. And the net residential density, the gross residential density stayed the same, and that relatively stayed the same. Street B, as I discussed previously, change, and part of the reason for that change was to have a further site distance from Leal Vineyards to the northwest. And in addition, the stormwater basin did not change, but clarification on the chamber capacity. And that was just to provide a further clarification for the public on what that capacity is for stormwater. In addition, the wastewater agreement so there was added information that the wastewater agreement was approved on October 17, 2023, and between the City of Hollister and Sunny Slope County Water District at LAFCO, and to provide services for multiple developments, but also including the Lands of Lee project. And in addition to that, there have been 2 wastewater options provided, and there is just one to connect with the City of Hollister. Option 1 in the previous EIR was to connect to Sunny Slope County Water District wastewater facility. So that is no longer included. And then I will get a little bit more into pieces of the EIR that changed as well. There had been significant unavoidable impacts in the previous EIR, and one of them was associated with the noise, and this was tied to wastewater option 1, and when that was eliminated, so was that significant impact. The second one was a traffic impact, and this is now less than significant with the VMT analysis. And let me just get a little bit I'll get into that in just a second, but just a breakout of what was included as mitigation, not that it lowered the significant impacts to less than significant with mitigation, but you're still required to do all feasible mitigation as part of that. And so the feasible mitigation that was required was to pay into either expansion of bus service or your fair share of impact fees. And so this traffic mitigation was removed and eliminated as part of this application because the traffic impact was less than significant. So just a breakdown of how did we get to less than significant traffic impact So implementing SB 743 through the Governor's Office of Planning and Research recommends measuring the vehicle miles traveled, so VMT, for residential areas on a per rate basis. And I know this is going to get a little technical. I'm not a traffic engineer either, but I do have some on the line if we have some follow-up questions after this. So they used the 11th edition of the IT trip generation manual. This is used to refer back to VMT rates. There is, in the IT manual, there's an affordable housing trip reduction rate when you have affordable units, and the manual has it at a 49% reduction. And so this was used to calculate the combination of deed restricted low-income units. What's required to become less than significant impact was a minimum of 15 deed restricted low-income units. The project provided 30 deed restricted, and so it brought the VMT per capita to 17.75. There is thresholds. Our county's threshold is 19.6, so it is below that. Prior to this incorporation, it had been above the county's threshold for 19.6 VMT. Some of the issues that were evaluated in detail included air quality, biological, geology and soils, tribal cultural resources, and all those that were listed. And then others that were not found to be significant on this page were not gone into further. Impacts that were required mitigation and adopted or would be adopted in the mitigation monitoring and reporting program included air quality, biological resources for special status plant animals, wetlands, cultural resources, geology and soils, noise, and then the transportation, as I discussed, this was removed, so this was not being required anymore, and then tribal cultural resources. As part of an EIR, as I discussed earlier, you're required to include alternatives. There's always a no project alternative, and the two other alternatives were a reduced density and then a higher density. These were not gone with because they didn't meet, as I had described on a previous slide, the project objectives. After the public draft of the EIR was closed, we received various comment letters that were and comments to those, and they were included in the final EIR, mostly related to traffic safety, traffic congestion, local schools, and utilities of. And then prior to tonight, and as you can see, there's a full house. We actually received letters from 27 different constituents within the county. Some of them were actually, a couple were multiple letters. Some of them just include just the email that it came with the letter for reference. And so this is just depicting the entirety of the list, and it's in front of you as well. A couple conditions for revision from what was produced in the packet and to what is being requested tonight included the removal of condition 27. This was just mainly because it is duplicative and it was conflicting in language with condition 20, I believe 24. I can double check that condition. And then in addition, condition 37 was revised. And this is because it dead ended to the not a part piece of the parcel, and because there's no planned development, the condition would just be a little bit more clear that consideration shall be given providing access to adjoining properties and fulfilling the Pocono County General Plan circulation element objectives at a future date if that was to change. In addition to the conditions of approval, the other requests that came between producing the packet and tonight was consideration of a recommendation to the board to waive the building permit parks and recreation impact fee. Basically, it requires for single family 4,634. So that's estimated around 650,000 of impact fees total for the project. The estimated cost of building out the park comes out to about 750,000. That of course would range depending on improvements that get developed. So the impact needed would be met by building out the parks. It is something for consideration. If you would like to add that into the recommendation. So staff is recommending that you certify the environmental impact report that evaluates all the impacts of the development for the Lee subdivision project. And as part of this, you're adopting a mitigation monitoring reporting program with no statement of overriding considerations because all the impacts were mitigated to a less than significant impact. In addition, tonight, staff's recommending that you adopt the vesting tentative subdivision map, but it would be subject to the board supervisor approval of the zone change in the PUD combining district. The third staff recommendation is to recommend to the board supervisors the zone change and planning and development combining district and affordable housing plan for approval. And then the final added recommendation is to request to waive the park and recreation impact fees. And that is what I have for you tonight. The applicant does have their own presentation that they would, if it's okay through the chair, they could present that now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's that. Commissioners, thank you for taking a look at this project, and to the more than 24 people who submitted letters of support on my behalf, I want to thank you. I also want to ask that they be incorporated into the record as part of the substantial evidence of this presentation. Folks, I'm not a professional developer. I've never developed anything before in my life. The reason I'm here before you tonight is I noticed, having been in this community for several decades, that our Native sons and daughters can't afford houses here anymore. And when developers come in to build, the cost of entitlements are so high, they then try to max out the size of all the houses. And while that's great to have big houses with lots of bedrooms for big families, we're not building smaller houses anymore. And the economics largely don't work. That's why you don't see it. After World War II, we built a lot of 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses, but the cost to get in that development, to get that front door, has gone up so much that you don't see that stuff built anymore. So what I'm attempting to do here with this project is reverse that trend. And while these are not 800 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses like were built after World War II, the homes in this project are much smaller than the trend of what's been getting built. And the whole idea is to have smaller homes on smaller lots that use less energy, less water, and are thereby more affordable. I can't individually control the economic forces of what's going on out there and housing, but if a build smaller product it will ultimately sell for less. A 1,700 square foot house will sell for less and will cost less to build than a 2,700 square foot house. If you look at the project that was just built or being built behind the tennis courts at Ridgemark, the Promontory, their smallest house is still larger than my largest house. My largest units are the ones with the ADUs. And so when you look at those and say, hey, those are almost 3,000 footers, almost 500 feet of that is the ADU. So those are really more like 2,500 and change homes. The big changes that I made, I came before you a couple of years ago, and I came before the board a couple of years ago, and it was denied. And there were a number of things that were brought up, and I made those, and this project, this revised project, is an attempt to respond to those things. When I came to the commission, one of the things that was brought up was a concern. There's a vineyard to the north of me. And one of the things that was brought up was to create a larger buffer zone so that if they're spraying and so forth. So we have more than 100 feet now from the closest vine to the closest house. And as Ariel showed before, previously we had houses right up to the property line, so that was closer to 33 feet. We put what's called a no-load road up against the property line, so there aren't actually houses that touch where the vines are. It's a street, and that's what helped pull those further apart. When I got to the board, the two issues that came up were traffic impact, and we did have a significant traffic impact with a prior proposal, and low-income housing. And so the prior project ended up offering 4 different options to the Board of Supervisors for the affordable housing. And my original version had copied what the last project the county approved did, which was 4 years ago, was the last project approved in this county, and that was the Lico subdivision off of Enterprise Road. But the message that I got from the supervisors was we'd like to see more RENA deed restricted low income to meet the needs. So we went back and we actually hired the county's traffic consultant, Kimley Horn, and they found a creative way to solve the traffic impact, and that was through creating these these deed restricted low income ADUs. And that did get our traffic impact down below the threshold. And actually with the 30 that we proposed, quite a bit below, and it is quite a bit more units than the minimum that's required. The county in their 6th cycle does plan for ADUs to meet affordable housing, and the largest categories in the 6th cycle that the county has to meet is low income and above moderate, and that's basically what this proposal plans to build. If we build the 30 deed restricted ADUs, it meets about a quarter of the low income required in the 6th cycle for the county in that I think it's 8 or 9 year period, so it's rather significant. So if I can, which button was this, Ariel? Sorry, I'm not a PowerPoint guy. Thank you. So I just talked about some of this, so I won't repeat. We got rid of the significant traffic impact. We increased the buffer. And on the affordable units, our proposal was to do 30 low-income units. We did receive some community feedback that said, hey, we'd like to see 3-bedroom units in the mix as well. And so that's why we offer an alternative to do 20 deed-restricted ADUs. We'll still build the 30. The other 10 just won't have a 55-year deed restriction on them, and then provide a half a dozen of the duets for sale as moderate units. So we want to be flexible. We think the county needs the low income more than anything, and as Ariel pointed out, the ADUs are not allowed by law to exceed 500 square feet. They're 400 and something. So you can't turn those into a 3-bedroom unit. Here's the map, and you can see Street B that abuts the parcel to the north, and so that way the houses are not touching the property line. She kind of explained already that we were 8.3% over before, and now we're 9.6% below. And even if we go with the alternative, the 20 and the 6, we're still below the threshold. This chart was created by Kimley Horn, again, the county's consultant. They are on via Zoom tonight if you have questions for them. But it shows that A was the original proposal, 8.3% over. B is with the 30 ADUs, it's 9.6 under. And C is that minimum of 15 low-income ADUs that gets you a 0.6% under. This chart is exactly what I just said as far as the options. So what does low income mean and what does moderate mean for those that aren't super familiar? It means that, the people like teachers will be able to live in the low income units. Entry-level teachers, they often have to share apartments because there is a serious lack of one-bedroom units in the community. Seniors who live off fixed incomes like Social Security will be able to qualify and live in these one-bedroom units. Very often when you have a pair of seniors living off of Social Security and one dies, the other doesn't have enough money to pay rent anymore, and sometimes those people become displaced. Seniors are the fastest growing demographic in the state and in our community, and they're also the most vulnerable and the most likely to end up unhoused. I talked to Enrique Areola trying to get some data on the availability of one-bedroom units in this county. And while they couldn't provide data, he made it very, very clear that they always have a hard time finding one-bedroom units and that there's a severe shortage of them. So the ADU rentals would be restricted for 55 years. If you do go with the for sale units, that's a 30-year deed restriction. Duets are essentially, if you're not familiar, it's like a duplex, but they're separate houses on separate lots that abut each other. So you've still got the garages and the entries and everything. The duets on this project are between 1,300 and 1,400 square foot, and they are 3-bedroom units. Folks like police officers would probably qualify for moderate, which would be if you do choose the duets. But there is just such a need for the low income. That's why we've advocated this. Ariel talked about the park. We exceed the parkland dedication requirement. We do want to build the park out. We think it's the right thing. Our cost to build the park will exceed the impact fees. That's why we asked for a waiver of that, because normally you just dedicate the land, pay the impact fees, and then the county has to find a way to build the park. And we think it's more appropriate to get it built there and it's available right from day one for the residents. Again, these homes are water efficient, they're energy efficient, they're just less expensive for people to live in. Another feature of this project, I made an agreement a couple of years ago with San Benito High School to provide them additional fees above and beyond the level 2 impact fees that they're required to do. Technically, legally, paying that level 2 impact fee is all I'm required to do to offset, but the reality is this community needs a new high school. And the reason I offered to pay more is obviously my funds will help, but it sets precedent where the school will be able to ask other developers, whether it's city or county, to also pay additional fees. As you know, there's a couple of bond measures on the ballot in November where the high school's asking for bond money. That bond money, even if they get it, is not still enough. They still have to get additional sources. So by me paying nearly double the required impact fee, that makes a big difference for the school in order to help get them going. And again, I'm only 141 lots. This is not a massive project by any means, but it sets precedent. And I've talked to others in the community, other project representatives who've said, you know, the only way the school is going to get the money is if someone goes first, and that's me. So in conclusion, I've solved VMT, provide a tremendous amount of affordable housing. This is located somewhere where the county's planned for this. And for those that feel that we shouldn't be building east of Fairview, the ship's kind of sailed. Santana Ranch is there. Dividend Homes already has a final map on their first phase. Gavilan College is there. It really is an infill project at this point. It does, I think it sets a very high bar for future projects. I had several tell me that the development community is not real fond of me because it is setting a higher bar, and it means that future development, whether it's county or city, is probably going to have to give more concessions. This project gives a tremendous amount of concessions. We do have the connectivity to the neighborhood next door and to Gavilan College. And if you talk to Charlie Bedoya at Fire, connectivity is important for safety. Something goes down, closes a road. We do connect to the city of Hollister and their sewer system. And we'll have the park, the extra money, and I appreciate you guys listening to me. If I could reserve just a couple of minutes at the end of public comments to respond to any and answer any questions or issues that may arise, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Public comment?
Alrighty, we're gonna move through public comment in chambers first. You will have 3 minutes. Once I call your name, please approach the podium. Elvira Robinson.
What are they holding on to? If you could please bring your cards up right now. Thank you.
You may speak.
Right here, okay. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words. But first of all, I want to say I am in support of this project. We need this project in this county. I've lived here almost 40 years. I've seen us grow. I've been very involved in this community. I've been on many boards. I've been a lawyer for over 40 years. I sat on the Gavilan College Board for 20 years, and right now I'm the chair of the Bond Oversight Committee that oversees the expenditures for our new campus, and we're excited about our new campus. And this project would provide an access road for our students. Your kids, my grandson's gonna go there. So think about that. This project has been in the process for many years, as you know. And I've reviewed the plans and I've observed all the accommodations that Mr. Lee's been doing. He's made a lot of changes. You ask him, change this, change that, do this, do that, and he's done it. He's done it all. In a courtroom, if a judge says, do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're gonna get this result in your case, he comes through, okay? So if he says something, do it. So he's resolved the traffic issue, the neighbor issue. He's providing more money for our high school. We're growing, we do need a new high school. I hope other people in this community can learn from him to be generous. And that access road for Gavilan College is really necessary. And I'm asking you, please support this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Manuel Bueno, please approach the podium.
Hello everyone, my name is Emmanuel Bueno. I am 24 years old and I've been an active member of this community for just about my whole life. This proposal is a tremendous idea. It brings a lot of hope to those who are pursuing an education like myself, who are looking to buy a house sooner than later. And not just that, also for those who are working in the fields, those who aren't as financially stable, who cannot afford a house or afford the high volume of rent at this point. This is a process that it gives a lot of hope to a lot of people in this community. It gives hope to the woman who is raising 4 kids, going to school, having 4 jobs. It gives her an opportunity to afford a house, and it also allows her to have the pride, and it gives her it does a lot, and it does a lot for the mental health for a lot of single parents as well, and as well as the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zeke Lopez, please approach the podium. Here, I'll let you use my microphone. How about that?
There we go. I'm gonna have to get closer over here. I'm gonna be on your desk here. Hi, hello everybody. Thank you for having me here. Also, my name is Zeke Lopez. I don't think 3 minutes is enough to to explain the benefits of this program that Bill's doing on here. I had four families, I'm sorry, that were going to come with me and speak, but these families were the families that live in garages and pay high amount of money in a garage to live, and they were told that if they showed up that they may lose their housing or where they're at, so that's out in the street. So anyways, the other things that I'm thinking about that will benefit on this is also that Bill didn't talk about, or anybody else, is our young kids that are coming up from high school, want to go to college. There's a new college that's coming up. Being able to be independent, being able to afford something like this, being able to say, hey, I'm doing it on my own, and go to college. Also, our veterans that can't afford things anymore. We're losing that. Our people in this community, we're all losing the type of things that we need to do for our community, the people in our community, instead of having other people come in from our community and take over. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. I just want to say that this project that Bill's doing is a big benefit to this community. Look inside yourselves and tell yourselves what other program or that's going on, the projects that's going on, is going to benefit our community. And that's what we have to think about, our kids and our people in our community. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jason Hopkins, please approach the podium.
Hi, I'm Jason Hopkins. I'm in favor of this. I'm a third generation rancher, farmer, and I support Bill Lee. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Barry Anderson, please approach the podium.
Good evening, everybody. I'm a neighbor to this project, so I still am opposed. I know that we need a high school, and I think the funding that we've received from all these other developments that are going on, are continuing to going on, we still have not broke ground on a new high school. I don't think the Lee development on its own is going to build us a high school. So unfortunately, that seems to be, the primary focal point. And I think it's a contribution that San Benito itself has to pull together, and with the bond measurements, is to actually break ground on a high school instead of we just talk about it and waive fees and receive monies from developers. But it still hasn't happened after all these years and all these new developments. The adjacent development, there was conversation that I was privy to that it may not continue, which would not give the Lee project another exit. So I'm not really sure if that is 100%, but it was from another person that was working with that. So I would be interested to see if that's in the works. The consideration to the open space to the existing neighbors, which we have 5-acre parcels, and we're there not to have somebody build on the fence line. And I think it would have been beneficial and a goodwill for Mr. Lee to consider his existing neighbors, because I guarantee you, if he was in my spot, he would fight this development tooth and nail, 100%. And I challenge you, Mr. Lee, to tell me otherwise. You fought Leal with noise issues the whole time that you were residing there. So there's no consideration for other people.
Please speak into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. There's no consideration, for others. But the traffic situation, I know there's calculations, but if you come down that road and sit and wait 5 minutes for all the traffic speeding down Fairview, those calculations are just that. But to actually have one of those counters, put across the road and actually get an accurate count as to how much traffic and how fast that they are going down that road. It's not safe to pull out there. And you're going to tell me that 141 cars, 1 car per unit, is not going to have an impact? I disagree with that. I mean, you can use the mathematical calculations all you want, but reality is that it is going to be a severe impact, plus the college, plus the other developments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry Katz, please approach the podium.
Thank you very much. Barry Katz from Aromas. My comments or questions are more about just projects of this type, just developments, 100 units here, another 200 there, whatever, coming up, the ones that are being built, the ones that have been approved, the ones that are still coming up. It's the traffic mostly. I know that I worked with several other people about the mega dump proposal, and what I learned from that was the biggest concern of the most people in this county is traffic. Absolutely number one. Then I hear it'll be 15 years till Highway 25 gets widened. It's not a complex community in terms of traffic and locations. There's just 2 roads out of town, unless you want to go down to Piscines or something. I don't know. He called it a creative way to reduce the traffic impact. No, it's just it's a thing that the state put into the regulations because they want to see more low-income housing. Obviously, just like this woman said, every unit is going to increase traffic. My question for the board is, what will the traffic be in 13 years before Highway 25 is widened? How many more units will be approved for housing without the improved necessary infrastructure to come first? I don't think Mr. Lee is coming here expecting to wait 15 years to build his project. And I think that's maybe what you guys need to consider, because so many other projects have been built, all single-family homes, mostly, and he's talking about his unit is up to 2,500 square feet. My house is like 1,500 square feet, I think. I've never been in 2,500 square feet. That's not going to be affordable to teachers and firemen and whatnot working around here. That's for people working in Silicon Valley and commuting to Silicon Valley. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Let me mention to you, and I'm not a supporter of Measure A, but I think the approval of all these projects, I think you're going to see it pass, because people are tired of the planning commissioners and the Board of Supervisors approving more and more housing without getting the infrastructure ready for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick Lampy.
Hi, all. My name is Patrick Lampy. I lived in Hollister for 29 years. And 30 years ago, I was a builder developer, a small one. And, I think people miss the point on a lot of things. And I've listened to what has been spoken tonight. But, the previous gentleman said we need to do the infrastructure before we build. The problem is, where's the money come from? You need to do the build prior to the infrastructure. You get your impact fees, your developer fees, your, all of these things, plus the property taxes it generates, all of this. But anyway, I had a number of things I wanted to talk about, but I'm not a very good orator. I looked up some things, and just in general, this project is going to put out more than $2 million just in the traffic impact fees. Now, that's not going to build a lot of road, but it might do some repairs. And if people look at the roads we have in our county, I think we do need some repairs. The other thing is, if you don't approve this project, you're still going to have the traffic impact. There's going to be development elsewhere and around. And this is an infill project at this point. Bill started this project, he told me, back in 2004. And it's been in front of the Planning Commission, I think, since 2020. I'm not sure. You can correct me on that. But anyway, just bottom line, we do need this project. Something else that I notice is when you drive through some of the projects that have been built, 2 and 3 families have had to buy a house together to make it affordable. And when you drive by those projects, you see 4 or 5 cars parked in the driveway or in front. Drive by some of these projects on a Saturday when the parking is there. So by providing this building and providing units that are smaller, that are designed for a couple, I'm turning 78 in 2 weeks. Be nice to have a new 1,100 square foot unit that I don't have to worry about the yard, the parking, or anything like that. So I think this is an awesome project. And again, I'm not a very good speaker. You can tell I'm nervous. But anyway, when my wife gets up here, you'll hear the real story.
And early happy birthday to you.
And Linda Lampy, we'd like to hear the story.
Well, I think everybody knew in support of the Lands of Lee project. I've known Bill Lee for a long time, and I know that he cares deeply about this community. For anyone to suggest that he doesn't take other people into consideration, this man has helped me serve not thousands, but millions of meals to farm workers, to senior citizens. And on top of that, we can see all the work that they have had to put into everything that has been brought to you so far. And I see I'm running around out of time already. And, you know, we, in our outreach, we provide food, we provide clothing, but I can tell you what we don't have enough of, and that's low-cost places for people to live. We get desperate calls almost on a daily basis from people in need of housing. The waiting list for affordable rentals can be up to 5 years long. So waiting 14 years, what about if you're living in a car and you're a senior citizen? Waiting 14 days, for me, sometimes I don't want to wait 14 minutes in this heat. Do you? Until we have more low-cost options for housing, guess what? We're going to continue to have neighbors fall into homelessness. And the Lands of Lee, this project to build the 30 small units. But you know what I was thinking? If it's only 480 feet, can you imagine how spacious that would feel to somebody that's been living in a van with no place to take a shower? And you know what? I want to tell you about this lady. Her husband died. She was getting Social Security. When she lost his check, she couldn't afford to live, and she ended up living in her vehicle. I'm speaking for her. I've seen a lot of beautiful houses being built, but none of these smaller houses. And one of the biggest things of isolation of senior citizens, and just to leave a thought, if we put all the senior citizens over here and all the other folks over here, but if we built a community where his grandparents...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seth Capron.
Hi, my name is Seth Capron. I think most of you are aware, I've spent years working on the ordinance, the Affordable Housing Ordinance. That's what I want to address tonight. Worked on it as a citizen and as a member of the Affordable Housing, or the Housing Advisory Council. I'm a housing advocate, and we have a housing crisis in this county, and we need to find a way to build housing that's affordable to the people who live and work here. And we passed an ordinance to do that. And it's disappointing to me that this project proposal doesn't meet what's in the ordinance. And my concern is if it's approved, it's setting a precedent. It's essentially amending the ordinance without amending the ordinance. The ordinance may need to be amended to take deed restricted ADUs into account. That's sort of a new idea. but I don't think it's appropriate to amend it through an exception. And I think the staff told you in their staff report that there's significant parts of the ordinance that this doesn't meet. And if you want to approve it, you need to find that it meets the goals of the ordinance. And I think the goals are reflected in the requirement, some of the requirements that it doesn't meet. It's required to have units that average 3.2 bedrooms. These average 1 bedroom. It would provide about 13,000 square feet of housing. It would probably house about 45 low-income individuals, and that's if you assume 1.5 people per unit for a single bedroom unit. The requirements in the ordinance, just doing some rough calculations, would require about 40,000 square feet to be constructed and would house 80 to 100 low-income individuals. So it's just not meeting the goals and the specific requirements in the ordinance. And I don't understand why we would approve something like that. It's, you're needing to make a finding that it is proposing an alternative that's as good or better than what's in the ordinance. And I was against even having those exceptions in the ordinance when we wrote it, because we've seen all too often in the past that it's easier to write a good ordinance than to enforce it when people are coming in with a project and trying to get it approved. I mean, if you look at San Benito County history, there's been a lot of exceptions granted over the years. 0 units for families, and that's my biggest concern here. The ordinance requires a variety of housing sizes because they want to meet a variety of needs. This is only going to meet the needs of single people and couples. I don't think we really want people having to move in with their kids in 1 bedroom.
Thank you.
Valerie Eglund.
Thank you very much. Listening to this and having 2 grandsons, 22 and 24, struggling with their first jobs and keeping their first car and looking for independence outside of living with grandma or their mom, who would also like to have a life of her own. This is an extremely needed project. We have so many young people and old people and people in between. Family life is just not the way it used to be. And if I had 3 bedrooms ever, I'd have an office, I'd have this, I'd make everything else out of those. It wouldn't be living space necessarily. So I'm thinking that it's insane to not approve a housing development that would accommodate a lot of these people. The students that are going to be going to Gavilan, where are they going to live? It's really, really important that even if people bought these larger houses and had the ADU, they could rent that to a student. And we need that. The connectivity that there is between the lands of Lee and the next door neighbor and the community, the college, is cohesive. They can get on a bike, they can get to school, they can come back home. You've got more people out there using alternative vehicles. This is to me just a no-brainer that we have this. We're not saying that every development has to have this, but this is needed. We've got another one, the Interview project, wasn't it? That's out on South Side. Now they're coming up with a lot of affordable units, and they negotiated with the high school for special fees in order that they accommodate more teachers and first responders in having lower priced housing. This is what Hollister needs. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could ask before we go on, if I could ask the audience not to comment during people's public comment? Thank you.
Graham Mackey.
Good evening, planning commissioners and staff. My name is Graham Mackey. I've lived in this community for 45 years, owning a business and being a resident here. A lot of the commissioners already know me. Last week I sent you all emails, so you understand that I am here in support of the Lands of Lee project. I believe it is well designed, follows our building regulations and the general plan. In addition, it creates badly needed and state-required low-income homes. Bill also offers generous funding for a new high school, and I think all his good points in his development set higher standards for future developers. I am asking you to please support this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julio Rodriguez.
And if you could please bring up your public comment cards at this time.
I don't want to be like hunched over. I watch these videos.
Well, we know CMAP's functioning, so please continue.
Testing, it's good to go. All right, thank you, Honorable Chair. I just have some major concerns with this project. I just want to first start off by saying, I think, I don't know Mr. Lee personally. I bet he's a stand-up guy. I understand that. Probably done a lot for the community. I nothing against him. It's not personal. Now, with that being said, I'll just be blunt. I think that there's a lot of inconsiderate. I think it's very inconsiderate to come and support this project while people are sitting in traffic. It's taking 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours just to get into town. An hour on 156. I'm not going to work out of town. I refuse to commute. But for those who have to commute to provide for their families, it's insane. And, we're talking about affordable housing. We're talking about, a teacher can afford, to live in this house. What about the missing middle? What about the people who work at fast food, the people who work at McDonald's? What about the people who, it doesn't guarantee that the teachers are going to be working in town. This is just a theoretical notion. I've done some research actually on one of my theses about the area median income. For some of you guys who don't know, the area median income in Hollister in some of these precinct districts has jumped up 140%. That is a sign of gentrification. Our community's demographics are changing. This project is not necessarily going to help. Yes, it's going to help a very few people in the community. And it's not even guaranteed to help people in the community. Have some notes. We can change the metrics all we want. Vehicle miles traveled to make it fit, to make it sound good. But I can tell you right now, no one's going to be traveling any miles on 25 because it's going to be a parking lot in 10 years. Honestly. We talk about infill. I ran this through, many professors, PhDs. They disagree with that. If you'd like their names, I'm more than happy to provide them. But let's not stretch it, guys. If you want the project, you want the project. But let's not come out here and make up planning terms or try to make it fit in general plan. That's not to say I supported everything out there, but running out of time. Oh, last thing, we talk about efficient housing, but what about, like I said, where are these people going to work? It's not efficient. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria Romero.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is Maria Romero. I'm an officer of the Salvation Army. And we have our building in 910 Buena Vista Road. And when they opened that road, now it's a lot of traffic. But I think it's because there's family living in one house, like 3 families in one house. And not only that, after pandemic, the prices are so high that a lot of people are living in their vehicles. I'm a witness. There's single moms with their kids living in their vehicles. And because we have not a nice building, but at least a building that we can let them stay through the night and next day take a shower. I think this project will be an awesome project for these families who is in need. And not only that, for the seniors as well, they stay for hours in a vehicle. You can go to the post office and see there is a senior there parking in their vehicle, and we try to help them. We help another person before and send them to San Jose. Why? Because there is no housing in here. It's too high, the prices, and their income for the houses, it's very low. So I really want you guys, to consider those in need. Like, I work for the community, and they struggle with everything. It's not only the food, it's not only the rental, it's everything in need. And yes, Bill is being a great support to our programs, and not only to our programs, to their own community when it's needed. And we need for rental assistance or letting people to stay in the hotels at least for 3 nights so they can stretch their legs from the vehicles. He's been a great support. So I really want you guys to consider this project. And I know traffic I work South County as well. So every morning, 6 a.m., I drive in a canteen to that other side. And I know I stuck over there for hours. But it's been like that. If you go to Morgan Hill, you will have a traffic as well. The point here is how can we help those families in need? That's the point. It's not only the traffic, and how we can support more our community. Thank you for your time, Honor.
Thank you.
Barbara Tadeo.
I have several things, and I'll make it real short. One of the things is, like one person already said, is the traffic. And one of the things that was mentioned in the report was 100 feet from the vineyards. 100 feet's the length of a hose. That's not much. And that's just ridiculous. It should be more than that. Second of all, I live off of John Smith. And I know some of the people that live in Santana Ranch, I have no cell phone coverage. I have 1 bar or no bars. And what I have to do is get in my car, drive down Sunny Slope to the medical building, or I call people from good old Target parking lot, let alone internet connection. There's none, really. I mean, what would a normal person take? Maybe 10 minutes, takes me an hour and a half to get done on the internet. This is nuts. I mean, we've got to take those things into consideration when considering some of these housing units. The other thing is to think that you're going to get 1 car for 1 housing unit. You're crazy. If you go by the people that live in my neighborhood, they've got 6 cars in a 3-bedroom house. And when the people that used to live there, they had 5 families living in a 3-bedroom house, including the garage and the barn. So, I mean, this is to think that you're going to have so few people with so few vehicles, which will increase the traffic. But this 100 feet business, that's nuts. You've got to have the infrastructure for the better internet connection and better cell phone connection. Like I said, I shouldn't have to go, when I go to church in Tres Pinos, sit there and use the parking lot because I've got 3 bars on my cell phone, or to go down to Sunny Slope and be able to use, get 3 bars down there to make a decent phone call. That's crazy. So also some of the fees for building, and this not only goes for this unit, they should be increased. We should have, by this time, with all of these new houses, a recreation center, a better library, and the money would have come from all of this new building. And those are my concerns. But we've got to improve, like the internet connections and the other. And I'm not paying for Elon Musk at $200 a month to get a better internet connection. That's nuts. So this has got to be taken into consideration. And like I said, that the number of cars for the number of units, it's going to increase.
Stephanie, before you move forward, if you feel the need to carry on conversations, please leave the chambers. It's unnecessary, distracting, and rude. Thank you. Please proceed.
Christina Navarro, please approach the podium.
Hi, my name is Cristina Navarro, and I work at the Salvation Army as an intake social coordinator. Okay, so you can imagine how much of a need there is in San Benito County, how many calls we get of families that are in need of rental assistance, mothers that come in saying, I'm going to get evicted. I can't afford, I lost my job. I can't afford to commute to get more money just because then my kids get sick. I have to drive back. It's a big need. And I really think that this project can definitely help us, cover all of those families that are in need of the low income, especially, him supporting the high school. I have a 9th grader that just started high school. That school is mainly it's so packed, and I see a lot of kids suffering. They fall behind because, the need of more teachers, the classes are overpacked. So there is really a big need for a different high school here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betsy Dirks.
Hi, good evening. Hello, commissioners.
Hello.
I have not been back in these chambers since I sat in those seats. This is how important this issue is to me. I was on the Housing Advisory Committee as well with Seth, and I highly respect Seth and his opinion, which is why I advocated for him to be on the committee. But to respectfully disagree a little bit with the ordinance piece of it, the exceptions are in place for reasons such as the Bill Lee project. It really does lend itself to opportunities that we need for affordability in this community. And so I think it's really important. It also lends itself to addressing the state now requiring or accepting, I should say, ADUs towards RENA numbers. And we are in our 6th cycle of RENA now. I sat on AMBAG as well, and I spoke at an MBEP State of the Region regarding housing as well. And this is real. I sat in a meeting when they said, we are going to make this a reality. If you do not meet your RENA numbers, there will be consequences. And there are now. Just last week, the state of California sued the city of Elk Grove for not approving a housing development that was in line with the general plan, which is exactly what this project is. All the rest of it to me is kind of periphery. We can talk about all the rest of it all day long. At the end of the day, legally, we have to approve this project. And we are in real jeopardy. It's not just talk. It's a reality that we could be sued. And this county does not have the money for that. We can barely look at the roads the way that they are now. We can't even fill our own potholes. And God forbid Measure A passes. And we will have nothing for anything. And so I just really think that when we're looking at all of this, it is very important to make sure that we take the legality of all of this into consideration as well. I do want to say, I'm going to speak for you for just a second, Linda. I think what she was trying to say in part of this community is when she was kind of cut off at the end. I have 29 seconds. I also like to talk. And so anyway, we're building community between generations by allowing this. The senior population is our fastest growing population. If you want to talk about demographics changing, there's the reality for you. We need affordability for our seniors. We have to provide opportunity for that. And this project meets those needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Irma Gonzalez.
Hi, good evening. My name is Irma Gonzalez, and I'm here in support of the Land and Lead project. I'm also speaking out as the Gavin College trustee for Area 7, which is where the project is located. A lot of the points have already been mentioned, the importance of the access road coming in and out. We just had a mass shooting at a school across the country. God forbid that ever happen here, because we will need to get in and out of Dodge with one entryway. It is just not safe. If there's a fire, that's the other thing. We need access to fire trucks and to get out our faculty and our students. And anybody that knows me knows that I put our faculty and our students first. That's first and foremost, their safety. And that's why I'm here talking to you. You've never seen me here before. You probably won't again. But something like this is important. Now, I have a different perspective, you're right, than others. Couch surfing. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that. Many of our students, that's how they live, couch surfing. They go from one couch to another, one friend to another, because they don't have a home. They've been homeless, they've been kicked out. There's one reason or another that they are doing this. It's not of their own choosing. This project meets all guidelines of the general plan. It helps with the arena numbers. Like somebody else said, it's a no-brainer. You ask Mr. Lee to jump, he says, how high and when can I come down? He's done everything you've asked him to do. And I'm asking you for our students, for the safety of our community, our students, our staff, and our faculty, please support and allow this project to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elia Salinas.
Good evening. Local governments up and down the state of California should take notice, said Attorney General Bonta. We're facing a housing crisis of epic proportions, and my office will continue to act with great urgency, working with cities and counties that genuinely want to be part of the solution and holding accountable those that do not. And those that do not, Rancho Palos Verdes, Huntington Beach, San Mateo, Cupertino, Martinez, Palo Alto, Pleasant Hill, Santa Clara, soon to join the city of Gilroy, and just recently Elk Grove, as Betsy mentioned earlier. All they had to do was approve 66 units. They didn't, they got sued, now they have to do 66 larger units plus 50 in the same location, and in a different location they have to do 66 units. San Benito County has failed to meet January 31st deadline to adopt the housing element plan. Therefore, San Benito County is subject to the builder's remedy, a provision in the state's Housing Accountability Act, which exempts mixed and moderate income projects from local government standards. Although the housing element is being currently reviewed to be certified by the HCD, but it has not yet, and we don't know how long that's going to take. We cannot begin to fix our housing problem with local government response to clear directives by dragging their feet and looking for loopholes to avoid their responsibilities to provide needed housing growth. Housing insecurity in California has led to the mounting homelessness crisis because of lack of housing, because of the cause of exorbitant increase in rent. The RENA numbers here in San Benito County, 2 more years to go. And right now, we have a supervisor that's saying, well, that means we don't have to build houses, right? We've met the numbers. No, San Benito County has not met the numbers. They must meet the numbers by a certain period of time, and the longer they wait, the more units that have to be approved, and they're not being approved. Right now, there is a lawsuit that's in a stay, and you had there was a tolling agreement between San Benito County and the Lands of Lee, and that was not extended. So then there was a lawsuit, and the county went and said, hey, can we hold off on that? Well, they should have continued with the tolling agreement. That's near here, they're there. But what's going to happen is it's already set forth. We do not have the money in San Benito County to not approve this project, because not only will Mr. Lee come after you, so will the so will the state of California. And they have NIMBY law and the House Defense Fund to back up.
Bob Tiffany.
Good evening, commissioners. I agree that we need to be selective about residential housing projects that we approve in this county for a variety of reasons. But this is exactly the kind of positive development, housing development, that should be approved. It checks all the boxes. We've heard it from many speakers, with the applicant having favorably addressed virtually all the concerns that have been raised, not only just by you, but by the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Department over the last couple of years. A little bit of history, like Betsy Dirks, the last time I was in these chambers was also when I was up where you all are, was December of 2022, and it came before us, the Lands of Lee project. At that time, I felt it was a very favorable project, but we had just passed the inclusionary housing component, and I didn't feel that it properly addressed the low-income housing component. So myself and others sent it back to be reworked. And what did Mr. Lee do? He addressed the concerns that we had and went well beyond that. And so from a standpoint of the affordable housing, it now meets the needs of this community. We've heard that from so many speakers here tonight. There's a huge need. You know, whether we approve this project or not, 25 is going to continue to be a mess for a period of time. There's no question about it. We're not going to solve that here tonight, but what we can do is at least start with a positive project that is going to bring some affordable housing to this community. It's badly needed, and if not this project, what project would you approve? It's time that we address the problem that we have in this community. Mr. Lee has bent over backwards to address every concern that has been raised. He's a local resident who's trying to do the right thing. And he's going to set the bar at a high level, which I think other developers are going to have to follow. So I strongly urge you to approve this project this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Nelson.
Good evening, Commissioner Gibson. Good evening, the rest. It's been quite a while. So $650,000 in impact fees that are being waived as a gift by the county if we allow Lands Lee to build out a park instead. Well, Santana Ranch was supposed to build a park also. It took Santana Ranch approximately 7 years after selling homes to build the park. How long do you think it's going to take to get a park built that will give up $650,000. Doesn't make sense. Then I see a story of dominoes. Dominoes tend to fall. They balance off of each other. We're looking at Gavilan College. It only has one entrance into the property. We're looking at the Fairview Corners. It only has one entrance. Then we're going to have a linkage street that will connect it to Lanzalee that only has one entrance. Are we not required to have entrance egress, 2 places in each community in case of emergency? So now we're dependent upon the other one to be dependent upon the other one to create the 2 access points. What happens if Fairview Corners, as Irma said, she doesn't know if that's being done or not. I think it was Irma. If it wasn't, I apologize. I apologize if it wasn't you. What do we do if one of them isn't done? Now we don't have what we need for the 2 egresses. So that's our game of dominoes that we're working on there. And how do you look at an ADU as meeting a low-income housing? Is the ADU owned by the property owner of the housing dwelling? Or is it owned by Lanzalee? Can you force me as a property owner to take my ADU and rent it out as low-income housing? My grandkids would just as soon have it as their camp when they come to visit Grandma and Grandpa. So that's a little confusing how an ADU on an individual's property becomes the low-income housing. Makes no sense to me. Those were just some of my things that popped into my head as I was listening to this. There were inconsistencies, missing pieces. The dominoes are falling down. All of the Lego pieces aren't there. We're missing puzzle pieces in this project. I'm not saying that the project's good, the project's bad. I'm saying we're not getting everything addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Annette Perez.
Hello, commissioners. How are you doing? I'm here I'm listening to this about this Lee subdivision, and what I really do care about low income, and I think we need low income housing, but when I read this proposal, I see 141 homes, single family homes, plus 20 duet units. That's a total of 40 homes. So that's 181 homes. And all that they are offering is 30 ADUs. 30 ADUs. I think we do need low-income housing, but if you want to, why are we doing just the minimum to meet that low-income housing? Why aren't we doing, hey, let's go for it. Let's do 50% if you really care. I mean, Santana Ranch, they tried this smaller home thing, and the homes went for about $700,000. They're 1,800 square feet. I think the largest is less than 2,000. The smallest is 1,650. But those houses are still $700,000. If you make minimum wage, that's like, what did I worked it out? $2,500 gross. Nobody's going to be able to buy that home, that low-income home that 141 homes, single family. I mean, I really don't think this meets the need. We need to build a high density, low income, complete unit where people can come and go. They have access to VTA or some kind of bus to get in and out of there. Our seniors have a community room. They can gather in this building. But these homes, and on top of that, to shift the cost to the people who are going to buy these homes, I heard that. The property taxes are very high here in San Benito County. I moved from Santa Clara County. My property taxes are almost 1.5%. Then you've got a couple of bond measures that are going to pay for the high school. Add all those in, fire, waters. I mean, these people can't afford these homes that are making minimum wage. You'll be back to putting 2-3 families in a home. I just don't think this meets our need. I think we need to do a better job for our seniors, our veterans, our low-income families, but I do not think that this project will resolve it. We need to come up with a better idea. I agree, traffic is something, but for me, this sounds like a wonderful project, and I'm sure the Lee Trust are wonderful people, but I just don't think this project meets the need of low-income housing. If we want to do that, let's build a large building that will house all these low-income housing people who need assistance. Yes, we need that. Hollister needs a senior center. It sucks. We need a hospital. We need roads. We need a freeway to come in and out. But adding these more homes to the already impacted homes.
Thank you.
And through Zoom, Scott Fuller, you've been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Let me make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Gibson and commissioners, for hearing me tonight. I previously sent a letter of support for this project, and I'm here tonight just briefly to further that support. I'm primarily in support of the project and specifically support the affordable housing portion of this project, because I think the project proponents, Bill Lee, has made a sincere effort to provide a meaningful affordable housing component as part of the project. And I think it's practical, sensible, and will meet the need of many individuals and families in San Benito County who need affordable housing. So I urge you to support the project this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and through Zoom, Matt Huerta, you've been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, commissioners. Matt Huerta, Housing and Community Development Director with Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. We support staff's recommendations to approve this project, including the environmental clearance and waiver of the park impact fees. Just a quick background on our housing initiative. We advocate for projects and policies that will move the needle on housing production in our Tri-County region. We also have a Monterey Bay Housing Trust Fund to help deeply affordable projects move forward, and we support employer-sponsored housing to meet the needs of our local workforce. Bill Lee requested an endorsement of this project. We carefully evaluated the project details. We sought feedback from housing advocates and professionals locally and across our region. This includes nonprofits, market rate, for-profit developers, and local government housing staff. We also obtained the approval of our board of directors that includes many of the largest private and public sector employers across our region. It meets our criteria, including a mix of housing types and affordability levels that can serve the needs of many low and to moderate income residents in San Benito County. As you know, with other affordable housing developments, it can take many years and millions of dollars of local, state, and federal funding to produce homes that this project will produce by a private developer. This is a thoughtful and positive project that deserves your support. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary Shaw Karan, you've been unmuted. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for taking my comments. I just want to speak against the project. It sounds pretty good on the surface, but I think when people dig deeper, I don't think it's as helpful as it could be. I agree with some of the previous speakers. I think if it was a higher percentage of affordable housing, I would support something like that. I've been talking to a lot of people in Hollister on the east side, and they're very unhappy about the traffic. All of Hollister is unhappy about the traffic. And I think that when you do a cost-benefit analysis, the benefits are not, I think the costs outweigh the benefits. The impact on the community of Hollister by contributing so many more vehicles driving in the area and on 25, I don't think it's wise at this point. I mean, you would have to have very high percentage of affordable housing. And as some of the speakers have pointed out in the past, previously, having ADUs is not necessarily the right type of affordable housing. I mean, my family home in Santa Rosa has an ADU. It's a family member who usually lives there. It's not like, some of the people, I know that a lot of speakers really mean well. They want to help people who are homeless, who are living in their cars. I don't see those people living in these ADUs. Most people who have the house and have an ADU unit, they would not have those people renting. So I really think it's really a stretch when someone claims that. So I feel like it's misleading in terms of true affordable housing. I support true affordable housing that's designed for people who live in their cars and who can't afford a place to live. This is not that solution. I think it's a misrepresentation to claim that. So I know that Mr. Lee does a lot of good things, and there's a lot of people who support him because of the good things he does with feeding people who need food. But I think in this particular case, it's a misrepresentation. I don't think that these units really would serve the people that a lot of the previous speakers have talked about and who they want to help. So for that reason, I oppose this project. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Edward Cervantes, you've been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Edward Cervantes, and I live in Hollister. I represent the San Benito County League of Latin American Citizens, and I currently serve as their vice president. Our LULAC Council supports the Land of Lee project, recognizing its significant potential for our community. In particular, the project's contributions to local education would be vital. The road that would be contributed to the Gavilan College campus would be incredibly important for providing a better environment and for student safety. In my experience as a dean with oversight over a similar college location for another district, I've had to manage evacuations, shelter-in-place incidents because of someone with a firearm and various other emergencies. Needless to say, appropriate infrastructure such as roads for a college education center is essential for safety in our community. Along with the educational opportunity, it is an axiomatic that affordable housing is an issue in our county. Providing moderate income housing units for families, seniors, students, and single parents with children is vital. Many local families belong to larger extended families with longtime roots in this local community, but can no longer afford to live here. This is not just an economic issue, but it's an issue that deeply affects our community's fabric. When families with multiple generations of extended family members who can no longer afford to stay become destabilized, it adversely affects us as a community. These are the same families that have helped to make the local community the incredible place it is today. LULAC encourages your consideration of the revised Land of Lee project, and the opportunity continues to continue working together to find common ground to build a better community for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Devin Pack, you've been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commission. My name is Devin Pack. I'm a generation farming family here in San Benito County. I would like to speak in favor of this project and the approval of this project. I previously served on the Planning Commission, as some of you know, and at that time, when we previously reviewed this project, the major concerns were over the traffic impacts, over meeting the inclusionary housing requirements, and over the water and sewer access and the distance, creating a buffer area from Lale Vineyards. All of these matters have been addressed in the new project. We have a project that has the potential to basically resolve 1/7 of our low-income affordable housing needs for the current RIN cycle, which is, a substantial resolution. Something that I've been hearing this evening, there's a lot of opponents of this measure that are essentially taking the NIMBY tactics of making the perfect the enemy of the good. But the truth of the matter is that you cannot get out of an affordable housing crisis and a homelessness crisis by not building projects. This is an important project because we need teacher housing, we need student housing, we need a second means of access to the to the new Gavilan campus. And furthermore, it's just a project that is going to lead to more affordable housing, more workforce housing, which is something that we need, and it is something that we need in particular close to Gavilan campus. So in light of all of those factors, I urge this commission to vote in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jamila Saka, you've been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Like she said, my name is Jamila Saka. I'm a resident of the city of Hollister. This evening, I don't intend to take the entire 3 minutes. Oh, I'm running from my toddler, sorry. Try to follow me. But what I would like to reiterate, and I would like to indicate to the Planning Commission this evening, is exactly what Seth Capron had said, and indicating that this does not fully meet the intention of the inclusionary housing policy. The intention is to provide multiple types of housing, not necessarily just one type of housing for individuals in our community. I would also like to point out with ADUs, I know that we are very concerned about meeting our RHNA goals and what the state can and may do in the future. But one thing that hasn't been noted and stated is that if the county or the project can be able to indicate that the ADUs, the non-deed restricted ADUs, will be able to provide a moderate or lower income rental, that those can be considered as part of a RHNA calculation. They don't necessarily have to be deed restricted, from my understanding of reading some of the state laws. So also noted, I believe the project developer said if the council or planning commission does not approve the option of the 30 ADUs, he's going to build them anyways as part of the project. So you're already going to get those 30 units, whether or not they count or not, he's going to be able to provide them anyways. So my thought process is follow your ordinance, follow what the board has approved, what planning commission has previously approved, and potentially get more units than just the 30 that will be deed restricted. Secondly, one thing that has been slightly addressed is staff time and dedication to be able to manage those rental units. There's no mention in the affordable housing ordinance regarding rentals and how they will be managed by county staff and how the relationship will be with those future homeowners and those future renters. Right now, you are going into basically not have any standards. So you're going to have a bunch of different agreements, development agreements, housing agreements, rental agreements that at this point in time, you might not have the staff capability 30 years, 55 years from now to be able to support that type of project. So my suggestion and my recommendation is for you to really take a better look at what has been provided by the developer and follow your ordinance. And then on top of it, provide the additional 30 ADUs, which I believe in this case, they are attached to the unit and to the home. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you at the beginning of the toddler running away. But again, I just would really appreciate the Planning Commission reviewing and sticking to what has been previously approved in the inclusionary housing ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Gary Byrne, you've been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes. Gary, are you with us? Oopsie, I think I just muted you. Sorry, I'm going to stop pressing buttons. Gary, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. I do apologize that I'm not there in person. I wish I could be. After 22 years in June, I stepped down as the CEO of the Community Foundation. And in that time, I was never had the opportunity to be able to speak out in public for projects or against projects because it would go against everything that the Community Foundation stood for. The last 90 minutes, I've listened to all the pros and cons of this project. And two hot button issues that we learned at the Community Foundation was always housing and traffic. And housing and traffic go together. Everyone says you build more houses, more traffic. So I would like to look at it a little bit differently. I have followed this particular project for many years now. I believe it's a very good project, and I believe it's a beneficial project. I also believe that if it is approved by the commission tonight, it will actually help the traffic issue. Many of our people that are commuting into town every single day are working in our fire department, working in our police department, working in our sheriff's department, are working in our schools. By building this project, hopefully many of those people will be able to afford to buy a house in San Benito County and make it their true home. So that's why I would really strongly urge you to consider this project as a beneficial project. Many people spoke tonight about that it was going to set an example for other builders, and I really think it will. This is a small project, not a huge project, but I do think the bar will be set much higher to benefit the community. Again, thank you for the time sharing my thoughts with you tonight. Take care.
Thank you. Before we go to the next Zoom speaker, if everybody that wants to speak that already has not spoken, please bring your comment cards up. Thank you.
Chair, we are done with our Zoom speakers.
Okay.
So Stacy McGrady, if you'd like to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you so much. I just want to take a moment to say that I am a 20-plus year resident of San Benito County. I live off of Fairview Road. I'm familiar with the revised Lands of Lee project, and I strongly support its development. I think that the benefits and assets that it'll bring to our community outweigh any negatives in the way of increased housing, traffic, whatever. So I support the project, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment in the chambers? Any more via Zoom land?
There is no more public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Let's take a 10-minute recess so that we can use the facilities. CMAP, could we take a 10-minute recess, please? Playing video games. There we go. Thank you. Okay, we are approaching the end of the 10-minute break. We have approached the end of the 10-minute break. Please stop your conversations and take your seats. Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I think in the interest of everybody's time, rather than me addressing all the things that were said, if things come up and staff can't answer or you want to ask me, I'll address. There's just one point that I think is worth clarifying because there were a few comments on it, and that pertains to the affordability. Just for clarification, I'm only building the 30 ADUs for the purpose of meeting affordable housing, doing low income. My proposal 2 years ago, we were going to do houses, duets as low income. We were going to meet the ordinance to a T, but it blew up the traffic impact, the VMT. And that's why we had to go back to this plan. The 30 ADUs will all be RENA deed restricted for 55 years for clarity, and the county will control, the government will control how they're managed, but they must be rented. And the deed restriction of low income in today's terms, depending on if you have 1, 2, or 3 people in those units, because they can take up to 3, will be roughly around $1,200 a month. 2 people making $15 an hour.
Well, no, he does, but no, this is
will be able to afford that. Sorry, 2 people making $15 an hour will be able to afford that. 2 people living off of a Social Security check will be able to afford that, just for clarity. So if anything else comes up, I'm more than happy to jump in and clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clarification on that. You said 2 people with that minimum wage, but so with someone with SSI income will be able to, it'll be based off their income?
It'll be based off their income. Low income means 50 to 80% of median income.
Okay,
so it'll be
thank you.
people that make half or slightly more than half of median income.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go to commissioner comments, questions, concerns, etc., let's do a round of disclosures, because I always have a challenge remembering that at the end of a long discussion, which this has already turned into. Commissioner Toledo?
Yes, I will begin. Monday, August 19th, 2024 at 10:07, I received a call from Mr. Lee himself. I asked if I can call him, return his phone calls. I was busy at that moment. I returned his phone call at 10:31 a.m., same day. And we spoke for approximately 26 minutes in regards to this project. Mainly myself listening to his project and his all the information provided today.
Disclosures. Now to comments, questions, concerns. Commissioner Way.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try not to monopolize this, but I do have a number necessary to accomplish that. So I agree that it's probably not 100% of the non-low income, but I don't think it's half. So that's one issue. And I also wonder if staff can comment upon.
I do have a
possibility.
Such it would lay out whether it would be the county or another entity